Canada is the U.S.'s biggest, best customer by far. We're a bigger customer than China by roughly $152 billion, bigger than Japan or the UK. No one else even comes close. In fact, Canada buys more from the U.S. than China, Japan, and the UK combined.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tries to sell the virtues of NAFTA to U.S. governors and urges them to resist the pull to protectionism. Personal pitch comes just days before the White House is expected to release a list of objectives it hopes to achieve when NAFTA renegotiations begin. And Canada has a lot at stake in this trade deal. According to the government, about 75% of all of our country's exports head to the United States. The deal has created many jobs here. In fact, 1 in every 6 jobs in Canada is related to exports. In 2015, trade in goods and services between these two countries reached close to $881 billion. That's billion with a B. So was Trudeau an effective salesman, or are assurances of support he got from the governors just talk? It's time for the summer edition of our Sunday Scrum. So joining me today from Ottawa are John Ibbotson of the Globe and Mail, Katie O'Malley from iPolitics, and in Toronto, political strategist Zain Velji, and a recurring panelist on the Sunday Scrum. Full disclosure, we should mention, Zain is also helping Calgary Mayor Naheed Nenshi with his re-election campaign. So thank you for joining us, everybody. Katie, I would like to begin with you. So it was a collegial tone with the governors. Everyone seemed friendly, moving forward. They want a win-win-win situation. We certainly heard the Prime Minister talking about this long-standing relationship between the two nations. Is this strategy of extreme friendliness going to be effective with the governors and with the President?
Well, I think we're going to get our first hint on that next week when we get the sort of the preliminary objectives that the United States is going to take into those negotiations. I don't think it's hard to see how there could be a better strategy. I mean, what would be the reverse? Being very aggressive, being very unfriendly. So I can absolutely see why the government has been kind of taking this approach. It was actually pretty serendipitous timing that the Prime Minister was able to go down and give this speech before an audience of a lot of the people that are probably going to have some to quite a great deal of influence over those negotiations. Those would be those state governors. But honestly, at this point, when it comes to what this White House does and what the president does, no one seems to be able to predict it with any kind of accuracy. You just got to wait and see. So I guess we'll get our first sense next week. But so far, it's hard to see how the government up here could have played it better, which isn't to say that's going to work, but I'm just not sure if there was a better approach.
John, I'm wondering, does it even matter talking to the governors? Isn't this ultimately a decision that will come down to Donald Trump? So why have all these pleasantries with a bunch of people who really don't get to make the call?
Oh, it matters a great deal. I mean, there are some people who are saying that the government is spending a whole lot of time and effort on something that will be unimportant, that the negotiations will be pro forma and that nothing really will change. I hope that's true. I hope this is all a complete and utter waste of time. And that
Why
NAFTA
do you hope that?
Because NAFTA works for Canada and it works for the United States and it works for Mexico. And the changes to NAFTA might possibly improve things. There are areas in intellectual procurement and government procurement and other things like that, intellectual property, that could be improved. But more likely, more dangerously, there could be the imposition of tariffs. And that would be catastrophic for the Canadian economy. So I think, indeed, the Liberal government is doing everything right, which is you flood the zone, you talk to the governors, you talk to senators, you talk to representatives, you talk to cabinet, you talk to the vice president, and you talk to the president in the hopes that if Donald Trump does do something strange and tries to impose an actually damaging tariff on the border between Canada and the United States, or Canada and United States and Mexico, that there will be so much opposition from so many quarters that he'll be limited in his ability to act. The good news is, so far, 6 months into this presidency, Donald Trump has appeared to be utterly incompetent at getting anything that matters to him done, whether it's building the wall or renegotiating trade deals, apart from a few executive orders that haven't totally been overturned by the courts. He's actually achieved nothing in the last 6 months. I hope that record of futility continues going forward with NAFTA, but you can't take the chances of not being prepared.
Well, on that point, Trudeau did, as friendly as he was trying to be, did take a bit of what is being described as a backhanded swipe against Trump. So let's have a listen to that, and Zain, maybe I'll get you to weigh in on what you hear.
Such policies kill growth. And that hurts the very workers these measures are nominally intended to protect. And once we travel down that road, it can quickly become a cycle of tit for tat, a race to the bottom, where all sides lose. My friends, Canada doesn't want to go there. If anything, we'd like a thinner border for trade, not a thicker one.
So, sort of addressing the issue of increased protectionism, this ideology that's building certainly with President Donald Trump, or something he built his presidency around, got his campaign around. Zane, is this going to win him any favors?
Well, I think it could, because let's look back a little bit, because this playbook that Justin Trudeau is now engaging in is the exact same playbook, the charm offensive, that he used the first time when engaging prior to meeting Donald Trump for the first time. He got all the influencers around Trump, whether they had influence or not, or perceived influencers, and charm offensived them. He effectively went in, talked to them calmly, talked to them about the positive virtues of Canada, of collaboration, of diversity. And when it finally came to meeting Trump, there was a groundswell, maybe not with these influencers, but with the mass public, that I think led to a healthier relationship. And that's what we're seeing here by Trudeau. We're seeing a guy that knows he enjoys not just great support internally here in Canada domestically, but also has quite a profile internationally. And he's trying to leverage that going forward. So if Donald Trump's policy of America first is kind of the masthead on Trump's thesis going forward, you're looking at Trudeau now trying to speak for Americans and almost like an Americans first policy of his own, where kind of trying to engage with them on a very heart-to-heart grassroots level. So to the points of John and Katie, I think the playbook is exactly set. It plays to Trudeau's strength, and he's going to try to do everything he can, whether that's the grassroots public, all the way to governors and influencers, including Mike Pence around Trump, to make this charm offensive as effective as he can.
Okay, so we just had to listen to how Trudeau was being sort of soft-spoken in that jibe, perhaps. Nothing soft-spoken about the current president of the United States. Let's have a listen to some of what Donald Trump has had to say about NAFTA.
The fact is, NAFTA, whether it's Mexico or Canada, is a disaster for our country.
We'll be tweaking it. We'll be doing certain things that are going to benefit both of our countries.
We are pursuing a total renegotiation of NAFTA. And if we don't get it, we will terminate, that is, end NAFTA forever.
Now, Katie, if you're dealing with a president, a powerful, powerful person, 1/3 of the decision-making body in this thing, and he's so aggressive and so in your face about where he stands on this, how does the soft approach work?
Well, it gets a little more complicated, because if you actually look at the readouts that we've gotten from these occasional discussions between the Prime Minister and the President, but also between Canadian and American officials, it's a much softer tone. Yes, there's this sort of, the theme is that, yeah, we want to look at NAFTA, let's make it work better. It's not nearly as sort of belligerent. You almost get the sense that for Donald Trump, the NAFTA talking point, that line is something that he likes to bring out and sort of highlight when other things are perhaps, not so rosy, and he wants to highlight something that he sees as being really key to his election victory. I'm not entirely convinced that that's what he's saying on the phone to Justin Trudeau when they talk, or frankly that that's what White House officials are saying to Canadian officials when they're kind of looking forward to this, which isn't to say that these negotiations might not turn out to be based on entirely that kind of like cartoon-like approach to trade deals, but I do think that there's more nuance here than just what the president says.
And one thing to add on this, I mean, this is a president who is more interested in getting the win, the political W, or the perceived political W, than actually enacting policy. We've seen from existing engagements that he has on his table, he really doesn't care what the end-use policy is, as long as he can get in front of the parade and say, look what I've done, look how amazing this piece of legislation is. So this soft approach for Trudeau doesn't meet Trump on the bravado level, but it might actually be an effective instrumentation in getting the right policy, where Trudeau may not own the win, give that to Trump, but at the end of the day, you got what you wanted. So if a win to Trump is a shifting goalpost, you might as well steer into that skid.
Okay.
Yeah, Zane makes a very good point. And just to very briefly add to it, he's apparently prepared to take a healthcare deal that will be incredibly damaging for his own supporters, just so he can claim that he has a win on dismantling Obamacare. So maybe he will take an agreement on NAFTA that really changes nothing of any significance at all and claim that he's got a win on NAFTA. The danger is, first of all, this is an emotionally unstable president. I'm sorry, we just have to recognize that. Secondly, he is under tremendous pressure now over the perceived and now real factually demonstrable links to Russia during the election campaign. He could be under threat of impeachment in a year or so. In that circumstance, does he lash out? Does he become the Donald Trump who's going to destroy NAFTA because he's not getting his way? And if he does, how can he be contained in that sense? We don't want to minimize the political dangers here.